even though maybe it's not as dynamic, I think there's always that physical language that we notice and recognize, and I think it's one of the ways we can maybe in some ways transcend language with dance.
Our company especially, I think, is rooted in the idea that everybody comes from their own movement backgrounds. Everybody has their own kind of training or interests that have led them into moving the way that they move. And the whole idea of contemporary as a form, I think, is this very open state of being able to pull influences from anything from hip-hop to tap to jazz. Ballet, of course, is there. All these things that have techniques, you can strip them of that technique and you can strip them of that tradition, but you can still retain some of that as well and just keep what you want. And so tonight's performance is definitely about us as individuals on stage being ourselves, doing the tasks that we've been given by the choreographer, by Dana Gingras, but using our own voice, our own language in order to interpret them.
We spent the first week of our process just moving and making this material, and from there she shaped it all. So it really did all come from our own bodies. Sometimes we would learn each other's material so that we had more of unison sections, but I think she gave us one movement that she taught us in the whole piece, and other than that, it all came from our own body. So everyone's unique training was a part of that process.
Maybe from the choreographic perspective, Dana Gingras was trying to get us, because we are such visceral kind of dynamic movers, she was trying to, in a way, make it less about the movement and about the intention behind the movements and our connection to each other. It's kind of like a language on stage that we're, in a sense, we're doing choreography, we're doing these movements, but it's really about the language we have between each other. Like I'm responding to Lisa's movement, and her movement is then corresponding to where I go on stage, and it's about this language that we're creating. And being about animals, there's a lot of subtlety in the little physical gestures and little things, mannerisms that animals kind of send to each other to communicate. So in a way, she was playing with that in a choreographic language.
Also, she would give us impossible tasks, so things that just physically aren't possible to do. But it's the pursuit of that, or it's the failure in trying that actually becomes part of the choreography that we're trying to do. And I think that's what makes kind of contemporary dance stand out a bit more, is that it has these failures inside of it, unlike something like ballet, which is about perfection. It's about line, it's about perfect shape and form. Contemporary dance has room for these small failures to be part of the dance and to have a very raw quality in it as well.
Animals have a body language that we can all read. You know, if you see an animal, you can usually sense what kind of state they're in. So as humans, we don't do that as much. We're a little bit more concealed, and we have certain giveaway type of behaviors and gestures, but a big part of what we did was to take those more animal instinctual reactions and put them on our dance. If you think of the word improv and just people making up what they want to do on stage, we don't really do that. Incrementally we're allowed to improvise. So the way we react to something could be different night to night. We can make small little adjustments based on how we feel in the moment, but pretty much all the material is set.
Yeah. But you always leave room for you to play with it so that it stays alive. So some nights Shay might attack me a little bit sooner than I'm used to, which will really throw me off, but it'll make it very real and surprise, and that way you don't have to fake anything, because there's always the chance that something might change. And so it's very instinctual that way, I guess.
We're trying to tap into these kind of animal instincts a bit, seeing it's very reactionary piece in some ways. We're very we're animals, but we're desocialized human beings in some ways.
I would want people to make some comparisons about videos of wildlife that they've seen before. This whole idea of fight or flight, adrenaline, what happens when you're kind of put to the edge of a survival or predator or territorial position. Like, these are all things that are embedded in the piece throughout, and to try and just make links like that, but also to see and feel that we are very much animals ourselves, and we're just this maybe more further evolved species, but it's about how we still have that embedded. There's still that part of us that has that quick click that could turn us into something very beast-like, very feral, I guess, and that's still there. It's still inside of us.
And hopefully people can walk away from it a little more in tune with their own instinct and impulses, whether we act on them or not, because we have them every day, but we're so used to containing, you know, our reactions because there's only certain things that are acceptable in public. So I think I'd be happy if people walked away being a little more in tune with how their bodies want to react, whether they choose to listen to that or not.
And I would say watch out for some juice if you're in the front row.